Gabriel García Márquez. 2. A magic storytelling. Nobel Prize in Literature and a master among novelists. Short stories are present through all his writing career, from his first works published in Colombian newspapers to Memoria de mis putas tristes, Memories of My Melancholy Whores, his last novel, published in 2004. In this article, a literary analysis of the short story One of These Days. By Fernando Chelle. One of these days. A reality not of paper, but one that lives within us and determines each instant of our countless daily deaths, and that nourishes a source of insatiable creativity, full of sorrow and beauty. Gabriel García Márquez, fragment of the Nobel Prize acceptances speech. 1982. One of These Days is part of a short story collection named Big Mama's Funeral, published by Universidad Veracruzana de Xalapa in Mexico, in 1962. This short story by Colombian Nobel Prize winner, in which nothing is missing or lacking, is strongly linked to the short story Espuma y Nada Más, Lather and Nothing Else, by Colombian writer Fernando. In Telle's short story, published in his book titled Cenizas para el Viento y otras historias, Ashes for the Wind and Other Stories, in 1950, we can see a barber and a captain which can be compared to García Márquez's dentist and military mayor from One of These Days. Both stories occur somewhere around the 20th century, and allude to the armed conflict in the society, but in Telle's short story, the role played by the characters is more explicit. The plot of One of These Days is the meeting between an empirical dentist and the town's mayor, a military, in an old dental's office where the mayor's tooth will be extracted. There are only three characters, two main characters, Mr. Aurelio Escobar, dentist, and the mayor, lieutenant, and one secondary character, the dentist's son, which works as an intermediary between both parts. Behind this daily life encounter, there is a background full of social violence, corruption, abuse of power, tension, and hostility between the main characters. As well as all the other stories from Big Mama's Funeral, this short story has a few dialogues and an omniscient third-person narrator. It is a linear narration, with only one scenario and action. The main plot of this story is the concerted truce amidst the ideological conflict between the folk, represented by the dentist, and the government, represented by the mayor, and the inversion of roles, in which the folk, at least for a few moments, will impose their rules. We can see three internal moments. In the first moment, we are introduced to the dentist and his work environment. There is a second moment, the longest one, in which we find the dialogue between the dentist and his son, the eruption of the mayor in the dentist's office, and the further removal of his tooth. The third moment of the story is the final short dialogue between the main characters. The beginning of the story shows a daily life environment, everything seems to be calmed, we can even perceive a nice atmosphere. The omniscient narrator tells us the characteristics of the dentist. The treatment made by the narrator of this character, representation of the folk, is very important, for we receive meaningful details from him, while we barely know about the mayor-lieutenant, representation of the government. The dentist has a name, Aurelio Escobar. The narrator says he is an early bird, working man, organized, methodical and observant. In this part of the story, we do not only know about the dentist, we are also introduced to the scenario where the action will take part. The second moment begins when Escobar's son speaks. The intermediation of the kid, of which we can only hear his voice, shows an unfriendly relationship between the dentist and the lieutenant and the animosity between them. The kid lets his father know that the mayor requires the doctor's professional service, he needs to have a tooth removed. At first, the dentist refuses to take care of the mayor, and tells the kid to let know the mayor that he is not at home, but the mayor listens to the dentist's voice and threatens to shoot at him if he does not pull the foul tooth. Escobar's refusal to take care of his visitor, as well as the expression, "so much the better," about the mayor knowing that he is indeed at his office, shows a clear opposition from the dentist against the power of the military. There are elements in the story that allows us suppose things that are not shown explicitly in the reading. Escobar has a gun. This not only shows that he is willing to go against the orders of the mayor, it also shows that he is ready for a military event. Maybe he belongs to a certain resistance group, it is impossible to know, even though after he pulls the mayor's tooth, he says, "Now you'll pay for our 20 dead men." The mayor has a stereotypical way to belong for a military, he is prepotent, arrogant, and is not afraid to impose his will through violence. But the events of the story do not follow the path we as readers expected. Before defying the mayor to shoot, Escobar made sure that he had his own gun in the lower drawer of his desk. The mayor enters the office after threatening the dentist with shooting him, so the most logical event would have been a shootout between both characters. But nothing of this happens. The doctor sees the marks of pain in the mayor's face and feels sorry for him, and ends up taking care of him normally. But we see the mayor was not happy either with the visit. He spent 5 painful nights before going to the dentist. Most probably, Escobar was the only dentist in town, but even if he was a self-made dentist, he knew how to do his job. The conflict in this story is about health, not about politics or a military subject, so the characters must try and interact in the most civilized way they can. This situation leads to a role inversion in the dentist's office, in relation to power. The military is now in the hands of the dentist, and has no option but to obey if he wants his toothache to stop. That is the reason why I said in the beginning of this article that the story was about the folk imposing its rules for a moment. Anyway, the social conflict goes on. Escobar, knowing that this situation was temporary, handles it to his favor. He boils his instruments and retrieves them with cold tweezers without a single sign of hurry, washes his hand while the desperate mayor is staring at him. He even has an excuse to inflict extra pain to the mayor. The tooth has an abscess, so it must be pulled out without using anesthesia. The existence of the abscess is left to our imagination, it is never confirmed. The confirmed fact here is the big amount of pain the mayor will go through. His pain will be so intense that the dentist says him, "Now you'll pay for our 20 dead men, Lieutenant." It is totally meaningful that the dentist calls the mayor by his military rank. The dentist is charging the mayor with 20 dead men, which might mean that the mayor lieutenant is responsible for their deaths, and the dentist says, "Our 20 dead man," in plural, which might mean that these dead people are part of the folk. After the dentist pulls the foul tooth out, he offers the mayor a dry and clean handkerchief. The dentist specifies the mayor that the piece of cloth is for drying his tears, in contrast to the typical arrogant attitude of the military. The last moment of the story comes in the form of a small dialogue between the characters. In this segment, political corruption in that violent society is made evident. That military, who probably seized power with the help of guns and submits the town with the power of violence, who has killed at least tens of people, finances his personal account with the municipal treasury. He feels no shame in admitting that he and the city hall are the same damn thing.